Welcome, everyone, to this is a Quo Vadis podcast that I'm doing. I do occasionally. And today I have Rui de Freitas. We're live in London. I had an event here yesterday at the Everman Theatre in Borough Market for the last Media Dollar game, which I think many of you have seen. It was a live event with Katie Jones from Index Exchange, with Dan Plant, Chief Strategy Officer at Starcom, and also Richard Kramer, who played the game live on stage. It was a lot of fun. Can't wait to do that in New York in February, which I'm working on. So today, though, my good friend Rui de Freitas, he happens to also be in town from Zurich. So we said, hey, let's get a studio and let's just do this live since we're here together. So this is great. We have a great studio here. You guys heard the sound check. That was fun. So this, though, today is about Seawire, because as I've seen the company develop and getting, updates on the platform for the past year and a half, it's incredible the speed you guys are developing at. And, the team is awesome. I spent some time at this time last year in Zurich.
That is true.
It was great. I showed up and come to the office at 6 p.m. I find it. It's in the business district. And they had a party for me. It was great. I had a nice little setup there. Then we had a nice Italian dinner. That was good.
That is true.
So, so it's been interesting because I'm so impressed. I see a lot of technology. We all hear a lot about AI, and like what's practical, what's not. And what I'm seeing from you guys is incredibly practical, with real people using it, real clients using it, and some of the things you showed me, and the thing, the feature, product, not a feature, the product that you announced recently, MatchPersona.
Correct.
That's what this is about. Rui and I are going to come back in January with a part 2 to show all the internal things they're doing with AI to have an incredibly productive team. I mean, it's amazing. So we're going to get into that in January. But right now, this is about MatchPersona. So, Rui, if you want to give a quick background,
yes.
And then we have a screen share and just show the platform.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we started the company about 5 years ago, and that was when the whole cookie apocalypse was coming,
right?
And we saw everyone going into email-based identifiers, and the whole industry going into less privacy.
Right.
And at the same time, back then there was already, even though ChatGPT wasn't around, OpenAI wasn't that public, there was already quite a lot of things happening on the AI space, and we figured there are much better signals we can use to actually figure out whether it's relevant or not.
Because it really started as a cookieless SSP.
Because
of those things you just mentioned.
Exactly, it did. As a kind of an ad network with our own ad server, our own SSP. And
own bidder.
Exactly, own bidder. And what we've been building is essentially having the whole layer, kind of the whole media buying system, from the creative down to the SSP, to really have all the steps that are needed to actually feed the tools and the data to an agent to take the right decision. So all that groundwork is actually extremely valuable when it comes to AI agents.
Because it's pre-AI still.
That was, well, I mean, it started with AI already, but pre-LLMs, let's say.
Yeah, pre-LLM.
Pre-LLMs,
right.
Yeah. And what we've seen now with the rise of AI agents, with also ATCP that's coming, and a lot of things are happening in industry around AI, but also AI agents. And when we discussed that about a year ago with my CTO, he was really like, well, the challenge for AI agents is not the agent, is the context engineering. And by context, I don't mean, like contextual advertising. By context, I mean, what does an agent has access to in terms of data, in order to take the best decisions, and which tools can you connect to an agent so that it can actually do something about it, And we kind of figured, we've been building all those tools with the bidder, the creative system, and by
the way, everything you just mentioned there, I always kind of determine that as like, what is the job to be done? Well, you take a job, there's always 6 to 8 job steps in every job. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter if you're buying media, if you're buying deodorant, and you're buying products, you're doing something to get a job done. And underneath these job steps are sub-jobs, and sub-jobs have outcomes. Well, there's the context around the agent is, how does it do the job? It needs something to do the job.
Yeah, exactly. And essentially, since we have all of that, we've been, first of all, making sure that all the data we had across every brick, like, the creative stack, the measurement stack, the SSP, the bidder, that all of that could be available and like be accessible by agents with MCP servers and so on. That was the one of the steps, making sure that our tech can be used by external agents. But we've been building our own agents where we believe we can do a really good job with the USPs that we have as a company, which is the contextual advertising, how we match.
Yeah.
We've been matching creatives to URLs and scoring URLs against creatives since the beginning.
Right.
Crawling landing pages, figuring out what's the product or the service that we try to sell.
And that stuff was already good.
Correct.
That was really great engineering. That was really great stuff.
Correct. And now the point is, how can we get more strategic about it? And that's where we started with the first AI agent, which is MatchPersona, which is the first agent that takes brand inputs, and we made a very easy approach with like a landing page. We take brand inputs and turn that into essentially actionable media decisions.
Right.
And from there, we design personas, and that's maybe what I can show
that's
here.
What we want to show. And also, I think there's an important point in there in our discussions that we have around, hey, this is how marketers think. Yeah. Right? Marketers don't think in terms of the way I say a bidder thinks, a DSP bidder. They think in terms of personas and creatives and matching that and buying media accordingly.
Yeah, we essentially have three categories. You have marketers that spend like enormous resources in defining who their target group is, defining marketing personas.
Right.
And then you have media planners that don't have the same like language. The media planners have targetings, and they try to figure out which targetings could match what.
I remember this. I remember when I was on a consulting engagement, I don't know, in 2016 or 2017, at Constellation Brands in San Francisco. They own Modelo, they own a ton of wine brands, and they paid all the money to the research firm for the personas, and then translating what that language means, which is actually perfect language for AI, if you think about it from natural language, but then that's got to get translated into a media plan, and then the buy. And there's a lot that got lost in that. It was almost really something that didn't get translated very well.
Yeah.
But now that changes quite a bit.
Correct, it changes. And what we've done with MatchPersona is essentially also connected to how we then find users online with our contextual approach. Yeah. And we want to make that, I think, also fundamentally, how do there's a lot of strategic decisions and also potentially like the vision on how we're going to use AI agents in the future. And we wanted to make it collaborative, transparent. And that's why we've built MatchPersona the way we did, so that we actually, let me try and share that with you. But we actually can involve all the teams into the...
1 second, folks. Technical.
Sorry, there we go.
Okay.
So that we can actually involve every team into the process of figuring out, is that exactly what we want as a brand? Is that exactly what we want as a media buyer? And then all the campaigners, everything can actually get to that point. So if I try to share that now, let's see if it works.
Yeah.
I have privacy settings on my computer.
You're very Swiss of you.
Yeah, very much. But it's gonna work. All right, so 1 second, we're getting there.
GDPR. No, I'm just kidding.
Almost. Almost. Wait. All right, I think we're getting there. Yes. All right, good. So essentially what we've been building is a system where out of a like you can see now on the screen, but essentially out of a URL that I could type in here, let's say, I don't know.
Any brand?
Any brand.
Go with, I don't know, can we go H&M or something like that? Or what do you want to?
H&M, I don't know what the URL is. Let me check quickly. H&M, it's hm.com, very easy. Yeah. So hm.com, I could go with their landing page, but I could go with any other specific pages as well if I would like to go more granular and really have for each product a specific persona definition. I've got some here ready so we can actually go through them, but essentially the way it looks like is, if I take Apple here, for example, I went with the landing page for the iPad, where they have the iPad line up, with
Right.
all the different iPads they have. And from that, we'll extract what we call, the landing page evidence. That's everything that we can infer with a high degree of certainty about that particular page. So the brand is Apple, the product is the iPad lineup. There's a product description, so a family of premium tablets that blend powerful performance, portable form factors, and so on and so on. We then go into the target audience, where we have a target group and a little description of that target group. The page context to really understand, so that's a product page. We identify what that page would be good for in terms of marketing funnel, and in this case, it would be consideration, the market, in that particular case is global, and the price band, which in that case is premium. For Apple and for the iPad. We then extract as well what the product context is. So that's consumer electronics, market type, whether that's B2B or B2C or both. In this case, it's also both. The usage context, you use it at home, in the office, on the go, and then some ICP hints, what the ideal client profile, customer profile would be. And the brand and messaging. So the brand voice is innovative, the emotional framing is aspiration, the values, innovation, versatility, quality, the key promises, the pain points addressed, and the primary buying triggers.
Right.
That's the evidence. And from there, this is something that we keep then as, for that particular agent, as a context that he will keep about that particular product. And from there, we'll build a set of personas that are generated and that we will match with particular topics that we can then reach contextually.
Got it.
So today, that from MatchPersona, from that
There's
agent,
no user ID in this whatsoever.
there is no user ID to identify the relevance. From the buying, if you buy from a DSP, you'll have a user ID for your frequency capping and so on. But there, the idea is to say, okay, here we essentially figure out what's the best contextual way, which topics make sense for each persona. And the advantage is, the first contextual approach was keyword-based, 1.0. The second one was also kind of vector-based, where you would figure what people call semantic similarity.
Kind of triangulation.
Yeah, and when you do that, you're very product-focused. So you're going to have, in this case, it would be iPad, therefore, like consumer electronics topics, reviews, and that kind of things. And with our approach, the problem with that is if you need scale, you will very quickly go into things that are a lot less relevant.
Right, very quickly.
Very quickly. And in this particular case, because imagine that as a map, and you put a point on the map, and that's kind of where the creative is, or where the perfect match is.
Right.
And then you build a circle around it. Everything that is inside that map, everything that is inside that circle is what's relevant.
Right.
So the further away you go because you need more reach, the less relevant you'll get.
Right.
With our approach with personas, the advantage is you have multiple points. So you can remain on every target persona very focused,
very quantum.
Very narrow, very quantum. And here essentially what we'll do with the personas is we'll create them with a name, a description, the reasoning why we believe that persona is relevant, why that persona matters.
Yeah, I'm thinking about personas now because I've worked with another company. I'm just thinking about if you think about consumer research today, you go out and do your consumer research. There's panels, there's the collect the data, etc. Now everything's going synthetic.
Yeah.
Right. There's synthetic
data
consumers.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And it's similar to that in a lot of ways because then you have these multiple points basically.
Correct.
Okay.
It's inferred out of it's essentially inferred, obviously, and there the way we do it is to make that fully transparent. So then the marketer, the agency could go in and say, okay, that persona I like, I'm going to approve, or I can edit the persona, the description. I can reject it as well and say that is not someone like a persona we want to target. And I'll have topics that I can also modify myself, where I'll be like, okay, those topics don't make sense. Therefore, I'm not going to,
I'm just curious because this is one thing that always comes to mind is is there a next step that marketer who does this piece, there's automation around that? Because I think the way the world is right now in our business, in the advertising business, is that there's this concept of, no, the humans don't entirely go away, which is what we're demonstrating now.
Yeah.
Right? Agents have done this work of MatchPersona. This is what they're seeing.
Yeah.
And a human needs to go in. Doesn't need to, but a human goes in because he probably wants to.
Yeah.
And at some point, though, there's something helping that human with this process, this point that we're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's very that is very strategic, and it's a starting point. This is a living object.
Yeah.
So the idea is not to say, okay, we set it up and that's it. We'll also then, that if you think of it as an agent, the agent will actually do something about it autonomously, right? So it's not going to be like you have that and that's it. When you activate it, when you go into the buying, then you'll also start figuring out what works and how. And the next agent that we're actually releasing in Q1
Is like an optimization agent?
No, I'm announcing it here. It's a creative agent.
Oh, because we are going to talk a little bit about the creative as well, because that's a question I have, which we can get to later.
Correct. So the advantage of having those personas is we know, the user that we're reaching, and then we can adapt the messaging to that person. It could be the same product, the same promises in the creative, but you just address the the person, knowing that that person is like a worker, like a hybrid work productivity orchestrator, or that is someone that is more creative, or that is someone that is a student.
Right.
So all of that are things that we can actually address with the creative as well. So obviously it's a big component of advertising. And having a creative agent that can create those variants will be key in the future.
Yeah, no, because I was thinking about, you and I've talked a lot about, ad CP.
Yeah.
Right. I wrote a post on it around, Lloyd Shapley, the game theorist, around, okay, well, the buyer agent, seller agent, they're going to have to get matched up, and the better they can be matched, and then once they get matched up, they can decide if they want to do a deal. One agent's got something to sell, the buyer agent's got something they want to buy, they declare it, they're declaring their preferences, they match up, and they maybe do a deal together.
Yeah.
These personas to me are sort of like, from the buyer perspective, from the Apple or Nike or H&M or whoever, are basically the personas basically, this is who I am. This is what so seller, how can I be matched accordingly? That's a part of it.
Yeah, it is. And essentially, if you think of it, like you start with the audience definition. I mean, in this case, it's not from URL, but you can also upload your own documents. You can also, have your own personas, and then we'll pick it up. And what we'll do is we'll figure out which topics make sense. And when I mean which topics make sense, that's actually pretty challenging, because on one hand there is, does that make sense for that particular persona? But then it's also, how do you scale that? Like, is that even a scalable topic?
Right.
And how do you make sure that your personas, your segments that you're targeting can scale? And then how do you find the right creative to show to each of them? All of that has to come together.
Are personas in your mind analogous to segments? Will we always talk?
It is. It's essentially an audience segment. Yes.
Yeah, got it. It's interesting because the manual work of the old days of yesteryear is like, okay, I'm going to go into my DSP, create my campaign. I got to build my audience segments, and those audience segments are generally going to come from they used to be third-party cookies of some sort. That changed, but it's still today with all the IDs that are out there, and ID 5, which is pretty much ubiquitous at this point. Great job to Mitsu Roche. And so you end up with, in that world, you create your audience segments, and we call them segments. And this is just really, why call them that? Because now it's something quite different, right?
Yeah.
And it's similar, but it's quite different.
Technically, it is a persona. It is a segment. The point is, we actually connecting the language of the marketer, right?
That's the difference.
That's what they know, and it's an extension. So you take the work you've done that used to live in a PowerPoint or in a PDF, and you make that as an object, a living object that is actionable into media systems.
Right.
And that is, I think, the big difference, where we call it MatchPersona as an agent.
Right.
Technically, it will be segments that then are pushed into the system
And matched.
Exactly. So what we'll do in the background is essentially we have an engine that will connect that contextually to all the URLs, score them, figure out which URLs are the most relevant for that particular persona.
Right.
And each persona will have kind of its own match, page match, essentially.
Right. And then on the creative side, is it me, Nike? Is it? I guess there's two ways to go about it, but you can explain it, because is it, hey, I've got my brand, here's my brand style guide, that's all uploaded, everything's in there, and then the rest of it is what? It's there's an AI creative agent making the creative that is matched again to the persona.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
then is then the buying begins.
So we have two components. One that we call brand DNA, and that's all the brand guidelines, also brand inputs that we use.
Right,
The brand guidelines, the tone, the voice, like the guardrails, what you say, what you don't say, that kind of things. That's the brand DNA that we use as a core into every creative generation. Right. We're gonna have a creative DNA, campaign DNA, sorry. And the campaign DNA will be everything that is specific to that particular campaign. What are the promises of that particular campaign?
Right.
What are the assets
right.
for that particular campaign? You will have images and videos that are already done for that particular product or campaign, and we take all of that to then generate assets that we can put together into creatives.
Yeah.
And that can be native creatives. We'll start with native because the texts are easier to change there, and we'll start with that. But essentially, we working on making sure that whenever we resize a video, for example, that we make sure that in the frame you always have what's important, which might not be what's in the center, right? So all of that are things that we working on in parallel for those creative agents to actually adapt a creative. You could start with an initial one, or you could just generate everything from that particular landing page, from what we know. And then we create a set of creatives for each persona, variants of those creatives. If you look at what Meta is doing today with Andromeda, I think, they want hundreds and, thousands of creatives to run in parallel.
Right. And as long as, and the brands are fine with that, as long as the brand DNA is ingested into as an input, the output is going to be appropriate for them, and they're not going to be worried that something is off.
Correct. And the creative agent is something is basically something you train. So when we'll start with the match persona, from there we'll be able to have the creative generation set, and you'll see the creatives, and as soon as you see the creatives, you can figure out, like as a brand as well, approve them, reject them, tell why you reject them, so the system can also learn from that input. And from there, we can then, like, as soon as you're comfortable, you can keep training it like as a sandbox. That I like, that I don't like. And as soon as everything that comes up is something you like, you can essentially just let the system do.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So then, is there an instance where Nike has creative agency is using all sorts of things? They're using Runway ML. They're using all sorts of tools now, and they're the agency of record for Nike. Is there a place for that here, or is it not necessary?
There is. The reason we're building that, like, in a collaborative way, what you've seen with MatchPersona, where everyone can come in and remove a topic, or add like custom personas, or remove a persona, approve a persona, all of that can be done for creatives as well. And you can share that then with a creative agency and make it kind of like something the creative agency plays with.
Right.
So they're a component of an advertising campaign.
Right.
And today it's siloed, but we're building technology that can actually be shared. And all the assets that creative agencies build, all the creative concepts that creative agencies build are what will make the campaign better.
Right.
And therefore, let's use that as inputs, and then let's have them also understand what we can do with it to make it broad. I don't think creative agencies have fun, changing the ratios of every image, making that work for every media support, for everything. I don't think that's where they have fun. And that's something we can automate to, on one hand, increase the reach, increase the relevance to the match persona, or to the user looking at the ad, and then also to improve the performance by figuring out, what wording, what makes the ad perform.
Right. Now, in that case, though, is the creative agency, somebody at the creative agency, also in the platform? Or
it can be, yeah. Okay. So what I've shown here about the match persona is a shareable link that we can share with anyone.
Right.
So there's the people operating the platform. So that could be an agency where they have their own workspace. They operate the platform. They can create their own match personas. They can then from the match persona create the audiences that are actionable, that can be activated programmatically through deals or through our own bidder today. And from there, they will be able to create ads or generate ads that will then, create those variants. They can invite, they can share a link that they send then to the creative agency, or that they send to the client, and they can keep sharing that between each other.
Right.
And essentially, we keep all the contributions are kind of logged, tracked, and then ultimately there's a decision maker that says that change is good, that change is not good.
Got it. So then on the media buy side and the inventory side, it could be native display, it can be native video.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
And then also, what about that sort of the application of CTV inventory?
Yeah.
Right. Where there's a variety of different types. Right. So that seems that's already built in.
That's already built in, and it kind of makes sense. So when I talked before about how we match a persona to media today with our context, it could be with any data point, right?
Right.
It could be tomorrow we could do that on YouTube and activate CTV through YouTube. It could be done on other signals like time
Right.
or location or
Right.
even like data clean room data
Right.
that people could activate, and we'll then match that data with the persona and figure out what are the data points from those signals that would make it relevant for that particular persona.
Got it.
From there, you can do CTV, you can do anything that is if you modify a video for CTV, I still see a lot of CTV ads with a button to click, right?
Yeah.
Instead of putting a QR code there. So you
Right.
could actually automate that and make it a lot more scalable and a lot better for any screen at scale.
Yeah.
By running
Better
an
user
agent.
experience,
Yeah,
obviously, because it fits. It's supposed to. It's fitting.
Yeah.
So okay, then let's say there's a digital media shop, media agency.
Yeah.
And are they in the platform, or what part of the business as far as CWire goes? I mean, I imagine you want platform, you want people using the buyers, agencies using the platform, or direct in-house advertisers versus that classic transactional business of insertion order and having.
I think we don't mind if we think about it. It depends on how hands-on people want to be.
Yeah.
And we're going to be client-focused, right? If they want us to take care of it, we're happy to do it on our side internally, and that's what we're going to discuss in January.
Yeah.
But what we're working on is making sure that everything we do internally can scale as
Totally.
well as anything that we give as a platform.
Yeah, so to me, my visualization of that, and I'm actually, for the folks out there, you're going to see, we have a new game at Quo Vadis that we're developing. It's going to be very, very cool. It's working out so far in beta pretty well, alpha, not beta. But anyway, in this this concept, I'm thinking, okay, so in knowing a lot about your company already and having met the team and the way that you guys are thinking about it, you and Yannick, your CTO, your co-founder, right? It's, well, everything we do, right, is an agentic organization. Meaning, if you take the insertion order, because agencies are happy to do that, because they're stressed, they're constantly stressed. They have to place the media. If they can't do it themselves or don't want to, I mean, look at the size of MIQ. That explains a lot, right? But when you do that, though, the process of that and everything that you've built that I've seen is insertion order, right? It comes in, and you could have one person like Lisa works at the company, right? She'll be so happy that I mentioned her name on this. She's always happy though. So, but from her though, she manages an agentic org. There's no people under her. That's
kind of the direction we take.
Yes, that's the grand direction. That's the ultimate direction where there's an agentic org with a one person human being at the top.
Yeah.
And everything else is just agentic. Therefore, you don't have a fixed cost problem. Because the more you scale, if you have to keep adding people, that's hard. That's hard, right? On a business financially.
That's
right?
correct. I mean, what we're building as a platform, we actually kind of test it internally. I think what's interesting is the fact that we've been doing IO, the fact that we've been doing all of that internally is we know the job of every single step of the value chain. And that helps us today figuring out, what is time consuming and how do we either just easily automate that and which agentic pieces, which AI agents we could build to do that job, and how can we supervise that? How can we make sure that we can supervise what the agent is doing and making sure that it does that right? Because we're not building an agentic advertising platform where everything is just happening and you have no idea. We're building something where we want to make sure that people are still, driving the machine, but we want to make sure that we can take as many decisions as possible and make sure that we get them right as much as possible. And when we don't, that we can easily identify those and that we can
Correct it
easily
going
correct
forward.
Exactly. So and everything we do internally, let's say, I don't know, like any reporting or creative generation, right? The AI agent that we build now for creative is also based on all the experience we have internally from running, like specific ad formats, like all the social formats, the high impact formats we've been building, on how to render them on page. All that experience will get it in.
Wait,
how
let's
to
explain
get
that.
approval from clients.
Let's explain that, the social format. Explain that to everyone.
So we at the very beginning of the company, that was a request we had from a lot of clients that kind of figured, hey, we've been running those boring 300 by 250 pixel ads for a very long time. And when I looked it up, and it's actually now in our sales deck now.
You came up with something. I remember. I think it was during Cannes. It was like, if everything is going to be a 300 by 250, don't expect much for your industry.
It's kind of, it's something that we created 20 years ago. It was standardized 20 years ago, and fast forward, it's still the most transacted ad size, even though everything changed. 20 years ago, BlackBerry was a thing, Nokia was still around, and we are in a very innovative industry, and yet we buy 300 by 250 just like we did 20 years ago.
Right.
Maybe the content is slightly, different.
Yeah.
But it's still not really the high impact. And when you look at all the leaders that are winning the digital advertising game, none of them make money with the 300 by 250. You look at Google, YouTube, Amazon, Meta. They don't use a 300 by 250.
Yeah, and then for the folks out there, I could imagine people thinking, well, what about Google? They have DV360. They make money off of 300 by 250. No, not really. That's a $29 billion gross ad spend business for Google called network properties. DV360 is only a portion of that. AdX the bigger portion. And I wrote about this on Quo Vadis. I think it was called The Normative Economics of Google, just to really break down if that the antitrust was going to work out in favor of the government, which is not, doesn't look great anymore. It looks like Google's going to be okay. I predicted that from the beginning. But if you look at that business, network properties, it only generates 1.5 billion of economic profit, which is just another way to calculate free cash flow.
Yeah.
The rest of the business is 65 billion in free cash flow, economic profit.
Yeah.
So 1.5 billion. So it's not important. It's not important to Google at all, right?
No, it's not gonna break the bank.
And it's not clearly Meta. They're the second big winner. They're 17% of all media spend.
Yeah.
It's a very, So.
And when you look at their own properties, it's not even there. I think the only exception is there is one on YouTube.
Right.
I don't think that's making much of the YouTube money either.
No.
So looking back, I think we have to sometimes learn as well from what they do, and if they do better ad experiences, better integrated ad experiences, that's relevant. And when we have been running that as a managed service, where we built in the platform where we can easily create out of existing social assets and so on, high impact formats with also that are engaging, interactive, and so on, all that experience that we have from the approval process, from what they like, what they don't like in general, what's important to them or not. We've learned that as an organization, which is today part of our mode when we build AI agents, because we can actually build that in already and make sure that the AI agents we build for creatives will do what our people have been doing, but at scale.
Right, but that back to the point about the social ads. How do you turn what people would call open web into a more social-like ad experience? Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. I mean, all the publishers we integrate, we essentially always try to have, in every placement that the publisher has, we try to make it responsive. So we try to avoid having only the fixed sizes and make sure that we can actually expand from there. And then we basically, what we do on the sell side that is also very unique is that we audit every ad unit.
Right.
And we look at it and we figure out, what makes sense there. Obviously, it also means we don't have 20,000 websites integrated, but you might not need 20,000 websites.
Well, exactly. Well, this is where I was going to go. In a given market.
In a given market, yeah, exactly.
Right. So where I was going to go there was, so for example, if you try to go to Sports Illustrated, si.com.
Yeah.
Okay. If you try to go to AssociatedPress.com, it's awful. Right. It's terrible. You get there. You can't even get to the article. There's so many things going on with ads, right? Yeah. And I can imagine, what they're doing is they're They're just bombarding the RTB stream with opportunities. And by the way, you haven't even scrolled down. You didn't even know what's going on below the page, but there's stuff firing down there too, right? And that would not be in a publisher where this could work. What you're saying, that would not, could that work with them, or what would they need to change?
I think we would have to find which placements could work and which wouldn't, right? I think, we tend to like stay away also from all the like overlay placements that, annoy users, that people have
the
to
classic
click
recipe
away,
site.
like exactly. So, I've installed Brave for recipe websites, and I like to see ads, but it makes the website unusable. Therefore, it makes no sense anymore to have ads there.
Right.
So essentially, building an ad experience that makes sense for the user, that doesn't disrupt his experience, is key.
Yeah.
That's probably the first element.
Yeah.
He needs to consume what he came here for.
Yeah.
No one goes on the website for their ads.
Yeah.
We know
Wouldn't
that.
it be great to have the data that just what happened in Thanksgiving, of how many people just went to ChatGPT to get their recipes versus what they used to do?
Yeah.
It must have.
I'd still be afraid ChatGPT would do some funky stuff and hallucinate, and then I'll end up with a very funny recipe. But
like too much salt.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, I think the whole problem there is those websites, they still doing the right business decisions to some extent. I mean, for their audience, maybe not, but from an advertising revenue, it does maximize the revenue because platforms buy those KPIs, right? If we as an industry and buyers decide, okay, completed view is what's best for video, and then you're gonna have like floating video players that are tiny.
Yeah.
I've seen vertical videos on mobile banners that are like 100 pixels high
and
on a mobile.
monetize.
It's a vertical video inside, so you can't even tell what the ad is running. From a DSP perspective, that's going to be a great ad because it's visible 100% of the time. It's gonna have a completed view, and it's gonna have a completed view almost every time it's there because the thing is just sticky.
Except it was 100% wasted money.
It was 100% wasted money. So that's why we audit all those placements to make sure that everything has an impact. And from that, we've actually learned a lot of. Everything
has an opportunity to have an impact.
Everything has an opportunity to have an impact, but we can also then, through history, predict that much, much better because we know for every ad unit, we know for every ad impression how high the impression was, how visible it was on the screen, how long it was visible on the screen, what was the rendered size of that particular ad. And
you know that from like Intersection Observer, from like in the browser, or
we know that in the browser, exactly. So this is basically part of the measurement part that we have in our creative stack and that we have as an SSP. The fact that we audit every ad unit, that we combine them in placements according to our taxonomy, we'll know whether a placement is sticky, we'll know whether a placement is an overlay, we'll know the position on the page. And, when you look at some of the attention measurement today and you see, the breakdowns, it's going to be domain and device. From working a lot with supply partners, I can tell that from the same page, whether it's like a good placement that is after the first paragraph of the content or after the fifth paragraph of the content, the KPIs will be vastly different already. So the position on the page is key as well to how it's going to perform. And all those things are data points that we don't have in the traditional supply today that we've built in because we know it's important.
Know them. You've built them in to know them.
We'll build that to know them because we know that's going to be extremely important for AI agents.
Yeah. Yeah, back in 2012, I left Yahoo, went to Criteo, moved to this town, London, and the team, the SMB team, we were adding 800 publishers a quarter across, say, 6 or 7, 8 markets, right?
Yeah.
800 a quarter. And that was all human driven, but literally the team went to websites and they said, they looked and we only wanted very specific units. And that's what we went to go buy. And then of course the manual process is great. We integrate with the publisher, this buying starts, and then we would see the data and we would see, okay, what's working, what's not, and we could optimize and work with the publisher development team would work with the publishers. But that was all. This is very similar in this, but it's all automated. It's 100% scalable because its agents will do a better job of that, basically.
Yeah, and agents need that. It's part of the context engineering we talked about, right? If agents need to take the right decision, they need to know, is these ad opportunity on that first lot that delivers those KPIs or on that one that tends to deliver the
because it could
KPIs.
be,
Because it could be. And having that level of granularity, which is useless for a human because you can't go into the millions ad units and say, here I remove
The
this and I add
permutations
this.
are just
But
staggering.
for AI agents, they will be able to take action based on that level of granularity.
Yeah.
And to take those decisions on, like almost in real time.
Right.
So those are the things that we'll essentially need to help agents take the right decisions. And that context engineering is why I believe we have a great position for having the whole stack end to end, from our own bidder down to the SSP and the creative with all the measurement around it.
Well, I'm just curious because, wait, before I get into that, what else, is there anything else you'd like to show?
I mean, I think that was it. I mean,
Was
maybe
on the creative side.
I don't want to show that one yet.
Okay, we'll do that.
It's not fully finished, but we can show that in January. But I can quickly show the one we did for H&M, because that's the one we kicked off before. But essentially, so H&M, fashion and accessories, it will get the target audience and the personas. Then we're gonna have a trend-led style explorer. A value-driven variety optimizer, sustainability firsts, style curator, inclusive fit harmonizer, and all of those are the ones we can activate. And for all of those, we can essentially start thinking, do we need to create a particular creative for it? And adapt the creative. So today, with us, that would still be a manual process. But fast forward in like Q1, which is around the corner.
Right around the corner.
But we'll essentially come up with a lot of proposals that you can accept or reject.
That the person of the agency would accept, reject. Okay.
Exactly.
Incredibly good conversation, actually. That's okay. We're coming back in January. We'll have that all set. So I was talking about MIQ. Like to me, if I was going to rebuild MIQ, I would just rebuild an entirely agentic organization with the most minimal amount of people possible.
Yeah. But before you do that, you kind of need to learn what the job is. So you do need a level of manual work at the beginning. That's the best way to actually make an agent out of it. Sure.
So, okay. I think we covered everything. Like I said, folks, we'll have the recording. We are in a really great London studio, so the quality is fantastic. But the recording will go out, and you'll get that. We'll probably break it up into some parts too, if we want to break it up into bite-sized pieces. And then we'll be back on. I haven't sent out the for webinar 2 that we want to do in January about the internal AI tools that you guys have built for your own productivity. And we can cover off maybe if the creative stuff is ready by then. I think we'll cover that off. That'll be in sort of the 3rd week in January. I think we're doing it.
Yeah.
So. Pleasure, Rui, as always. Thank you very much.
Pleasure shared. And we'll share the recording with everyone so you can see what we've been talking about. And if you have questions, then feel free to reach out at that point in time. We'll be able to answer them all. And I'm happy to take a call with every one of you, and answer all the questions you might have.
Yeah. Thank you, Rui. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks. Bye.